required to put troublemakers in check. The Murtala Mohammed International Airport Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has intercepted combat drones, military hardware, counterfeit dollars, and other contraband goods. The Custom Area Commander, Charles Orbih, who also disclosed that the command generated 30.5 billion naira from January to December 2023 to surpass its target revenue by 5%. He also said all the drones lacked end-user certificates from the Office of the National Security Advisor and that they were above the specification allowed in the country by law. Gentlemen, who are these saboteurs and to what end?
Well, the interesting thing is that the customs didn't tell us. All we heard was that the customs donated it to the Navy. So I hope that these drones will not somehow find their way into the hands of criminal elements. You know, I mean, I had thought that the customs would have added maybe the identities, even if it's vaguely, of the people allegedly responsible for this importation, this illicit importation of illicit items. But is it that they've been given a slap on the wrist, or the customs doesn't consider it important for Nigerians to know, you know, that there are certain people who are hell-bent on maintaining, on sustaining a situation of insecurity and impunity in the country? I think they should not, as security agencies, should also regularly capture the public mood. Insecurity is one of our biggest problems today. And anything you can do to reassure Nigerians, it matters a lot. If you made this kind of seizure, you should come out to tell Nigerians, oh, we arrested the clearing agents, we've traced the owners, we have arrested them, we are prosecuting them, even if you don't release their names. That will reassure people. But you just say you gave to the Navy. So what it means, maybe the people imported it ran away. They have no identity. Somebody put it on a ship from somewhere.
So this story says...
Put it on a plane. He said it was at Nnamdi Azikiwe.
But this story says 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with the seizures.
You see, yes, 3 suspects. You regularly hear that 3 suspects, 10 suspects, blah, 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 and you don't hear anything again. That should actually be the focus. If you're donating it to the Navy, I think they should have waited for the prosecution to start. Then you now donate it. Because somebody put it on a plane. From which country? Who was the identity of the person?
Well, they might say that is not for public consumption.
But when people are kidnapped, it is for public consumption. Come on. We need you see, we are all stakeholders in the affairs of this nation. We are citizens. So when things like, we're not telling you come and parade them because it's against the law. We're not telling you to come and parade them. But the issue is that at least give us enough assurance that you are doing something on it. So I hope there will be a follow-up to this issue of a donation that, yes, they've been prosecuted, if they are found guilty, and then jailed.
Okay, well, let me come to you. What do you make of this report?
You know, this thing has been happening for some time.
Yes.
Are you surprised that armed robbers, bandits, and other undesirable elements wear police uniform, army uniform, and even have access to assault rifles, the kind of assault rifles that our armed forces use? This is not the first time that this is happening. I remember back in those days when I was a tabloid editor, a 50-foot container fully loaded with military uniform was intercepted here in Lagos. In fact, it had escaped from the ports. But based on a tip-off, the police were alerted and they seized that truck, 50-foot container. It was parked at Panti for a long time. So the question is, who imported army uniforms into our country, as well as some weapons of war? It is clear that the insecurity that we are facing in our country requires concerted efforts. It requires thinking outside the box. And we must deny these people access to the weapons that they use, access to the uniforms that they wear, that they use to deceive people that is actually members of the armed forces that are on patrol. We need to deny them all of this. For example, whoever is bringing in drones, whether it's a state government that wants to use drones to patrol forests and all that, you know what you have to do. You know that you have to approach the office of the NSA to get the end user certificate. How do you bring in drones, unmanned area vehicles, the size that is beyond what civilians are permitted to use? The kind of drones that everyone knows is meant for warfare. How do you bring them into our country? Remember some years ago, weapons bound for Iran passed through our country before it was seized. So maybe these weapons are even meant for somewhere else, but I know that bandits, Boko Haram elements, they've had their Turaya gadgets intercepted in the past in our country. We have to find a way to stop these undesirable elements from bringing in these kind of items into the country. It shouldn't even get here. And if it gets here, it must not pass through the ports. Last year, along Lokoja Abuja Highway, military uniforms were seized. They were being taken by a truck to God knows where, but they were seized. Some time ago, tramadol, a trailer load of tramadol heading towards Sambisa Forest was also intercepted along the way. So we've got to work harder to stop these people from bringing this kind of things into our country, because the repercussion can only be imagined. They are able to bring weapons into the country, then they already have an advantage over our security forces. And sometimes they don't have weapons grade that our security forces do not have access to, including night vision goggles, which will enable them to operate at night, and the night will seem like daytime. So kudos to the customs, but there's still a lot of work to do. These things shouldn't even get here in the first place. If it gets here, it should not move beyond the ports. Because once it comes out of the ports, you can only intercept it by log. Very good intelligence.
All right, Azuko, just like BQ Animaker said, this is not the first time this is happening. But one of the issues we've always had with these kinds of arrests is arresting the least persons on the hierarchy. When do we start going hard on the top guns?
That is the major problem, you know, and it shouldn't be a problem, because the duty of the government is to protect lives and property. And so they have to do everything humanly possible for them to be able to protect lives. Now, sometimes, some years back, weapons were also brought in like this, you know, high caliber rifles and all, you know, through the ports. And it was the customs that actually seized it. Till today, we've not heard anything about who brought it. But we know that, okay, it came from Turkey. And at the end of the day, nobody was prosecuted. We've not heard if anybody was put in jail or if anybody has been sentenced. You understand? So we are having another one in our hands. And I think just like Emeka said, you can't just move a weapon or drones that have been seized and then you move it straight to the Navy. No. The police is supposed to get involved so that we'll be able to prosecute those who actually brought these weapons. These are not just ordinary drone. We have drones here, and we know the grams that we are supposed to bring in or to import. And we have end-user certificate for it. Because there are some places when we are flying our own drones that will always, you will just see there is a no-fly zone that we can't even fly. And we know the number of hours that we can go. But we are talking about high-caliber drones here that can carry weapons. And not just weapons, but weapons of war. So it means those who are bringing in this, material want to cause disunity in the country. So they are out for war. And that is the more reason this kind of thing should not just be waved aside. We have to know who actually imported this, who are the people, and where it was actually going to, and then we begin to prosecute. And not just having those who are the person that imported or the person that where it was going, but we also have to name names and make sure that the thing goes through the legal system, the legal process. Because if we do not do that, Jumoke, people will keep bringing it. People will keep saying, they will keep bringing weapons that are even beyond even drones. The military has drones. The Navy has drones.
But can we ever get to a point where we begin to name names?
Yes, do we want unity in the country? Yes. Do we know if people are fueling this disunity? Yes, Jumoke. But who are these people? There are so many. It is people like you and I are calling themselves Nigerians. There are so many people who are benefiting from this crisis, Jumoke. And so that is the more reason we have to start naming names. And not just naming them, but also prosecuting them. Because if we do not prosecute people, that is why anybody, anywhere can just say, okay, fine, bring the weapon and take it to maybe Zamfara, take it to Kogi, take it to Akwa Ibom, take it to Borno. And that is why we are having insecurity everywhere. And not just that, when they are also bringing this, they are also bringing drugs, because they know that the people who can easily, use these things are people who, when they are not in their right senses, they will bring tramadol, they will bring cannabis and the likes of them. Colos. Just yesterday, NDL just seized colos that was brought in from the country. So we need to start naming names, and then the government must see it as a national problem and solve it. So we shouldn't begin to deodorize it by, it's my party or it's my friend. If we want insecurity to be dealt with head on, we need to begin to prosecute those who are causing it. All
right, so let's wrap up on this. And BKO made a point. He says, one of our major objectives should be that we do not allow these consignments get here. How do we secure our ports and borders? Quickly.
The trafficking of arms worldwide is a big business. Mm-hmm. It's not a small business. It's not like the smuggling of rice. It's a big business, particularly from the Middle East. The Middle East is the hub. Syria, Iraq, Yemen, that's the hub of trafficking of high-grade illicit weapons. So what we need to do is to make sure we're more vigilant at the airports and then at the land borders, because you find, for instance, Ghana, Sudan are some places from which there's small arms, illicit small arms.
Before it used to be Libya and co. After that,
no, Ghana for a long thing. Yes, Sudan, they make arms, or they produce arms in Sudan too. So we need to be more vigilant.
Right. We need to be more vigilant. Accepted.
Yes, of course. We need to double up our intelligence too.
All right. Let's move on to our next.